It's always fun when the view is so that you can't see the toolbar. Okay, great. Yeah, if at any point my audio starts cutting out, just let me know. And we will be recording this, and we can also, well, in that recording, you'll receive the slides and the information. So all lobbying is advocacy, but not all advocacy is lobbying. So there's a fundamental difference between the two. Advocacy is the act of arguing in favor of something. So it can be education, and it's sort of sharing your passion for an issue, raising your voice, raising awareness. All of those things can be advocacy. Where things cross over into lobbying is when you do three specific things. And so it's advocacy plus, and you have to do all of these three things by the Heart Association's definition. So it's advocacy plus communication with a policymaker that takes a position on a specific piece of pending legislation. So by the Heart Association's definition, if you don't hit all three, then you can still be in the advocacy bucket. And so the two, that are the major differential are, taking a position and, on a piece of specific legislation or urging a piece of specific legislation to come forward. So lobbying involves attempts to influence swap legislation for policy, if you will, at the local, state, or federal level, while advocacy is focusing on educating about the issue. And so the way that I like to think about it is advocacy is the why and lobbying is the what. And so you can talk a lot about the why, and you can propose different solutions, but as long as you don't ask them to do something about that or, form it into a piece of policy that you would like to bring forward, the Heart Association would say that you are still in sort of the education advocacy bucket. So there are different types of lobbying. There's grassroots lobbying, which is an attempt to influence policy by affecting the opinion of the general public. So this would be like when you have something on the ballot and the voters are the decision maker, then that is grassroots. Or if you are trying to get voters who maybe have influence on a supervisor's reelection to talk to the supervisor and ask them to do something, that's grassroots. So it's sort of indirectly talking to a decision maker. Direct lobbying is any attempt to influence legislation through communication with a member or employee of a legislative body. So this could mean a direct communication with a San Francisco Board of Supervisor or their chief of staff. So someone that has the ability to move a policy decision. So the principal purpose is to influence policy on a specific piece of legislation, even if the legislation is not currently being considered and a point of view is expressed or you ask them to do something. And so I saw there was a question in the chat. And I'll run through these and then maybe we can take questions and go back to pieces. So what is advocacy? It's building relationships with decision makers, standing up for things you believe in, making a difference through action, pleading a case, and being persuasive. So making an argument, and also providing education on a topic to people who can make change. So in terms of effective advocacy, the Heart Association really recommends mission-driven messaging. So there's a reason why people are passionate about issues, and it's really helpful if you can distill your passion into sort of your why. Like, why do you care about this issue? What are 1 to 2 sentences that are compelling about your connection to the issue? We can give facts and statistics and data all day long, but we really find the most compelling and effective advocacy comes from storytelling. People want human-to-human connection. They want to know why this matters to you or your community. And then they also want to know, what your proposed solution is, or what would fix it. So keeping policy impact in the front of your mind, or talking to someone about who can lobby, if you can't, about what policy solutions maybe they see, and coordinating with them is super helpful. So steps to policy change, learning about an issue, so identifying both the problem and the solution, understanding how decisions are made, so getting to know, what is the process for a particular policy change with the Board of Supervisors? Where would you start? Is there a particular office that it would be more amenable to that issue? Getting to know key decision makers. Maybe it needs to go through, often policy needs to go through committees before it gets to sort of a full vote. And so it starts in sort of a presentation and thought experiment in a committee, and then it moves to their recommendation to move it forward to a vote. So you want to sort of create a plan about how you're going to get from point A to point B. Who needs to be in the room, who is affected by the problem, who can speak authentically to the experience that they're having, and who can help you craft a solution. And those are the slides. So I can, if folks want to come off mute, but I do see that Reagan has a question. Does the AHA definition of lobbying align with the federal government's definition? Is it the same for folks who are publicly funded? So it's pretty similar. I couldn't point out the difference on this call, and different organizations, I will say, have different tolerance levels for sort of the gray area between the two. And so it's best to, talk to your supervisor, or talk to, the head of your organization, or whoever is your policy person, and ask them about the ways that you're able to participate. How we have kept these meetings accessible to folks who maybe can be in a meeting but can't make an ask, so they need to stay firmly in the advocacy and education space, is sort of getting to know the supervisor and what their priorities are, introducing Shape Up as a coalition, introducing your organization and work that you may be doing in the district, and keeping it very exploratory, educational, and then keeping all hard asks until the end of the meeting, and having folks that cannot participate in that ask drop off the call before they're made. So that's been our solution to have the most participation in these meetings. If your boss says you cannot be in a virtual room, when someone makes a lobbying ask, even if you don't make it yourself, that's one solution that we have. But in terms of specifics, how we differ, I could look into that and get back to you. I think we're pretty close though, but there's different sort of comfort levels with the difference between advocacy and lobbying, and I know government entities tend to be more conservative in their definitions. Any other questions that folks have? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all, and then feel free to